morning, good afternoon, and good evening, fellows from all around the globe. We're thrilled to welcome all of you to the Climate Change Champion Fellowship Program 2024. Here we have a remarkable group of corporate leaders, enthusiasts, and the young entrepreneurs, all united by our shared commitment to the tackling the pressing challenges of the climate change. Let's give a very warm welcome to our organizers, Waqas Javed, CEO, the Brown Network, who has joined us from the Cape Town, South Africa, Nurul Zafar, who is the CEO of Mindwork International, who has joined us from the United Kingdom, and Sajjeed Aslam, who is our chief guest and a very renowned sustainable champion. My name is Shafaq Rana, and I'll be with you throughout the fellowship program. What began as a local initiative in Pakistan has now exploded into a global movement. We have attracted amazing individuals from Pakistan, from Sri Lanka, from Dubai, from Portugal, India, and Bangladesh. For this cohort, we have received thousands of applications from across the globe, and we have carefully selected this cohort, recognizing your unique passion, innovative ideas, and extraordinary potential to drive the meaningful cohort and meaningful change. Each one of you stood out with your commitment and vision for a sustainable future. I'm truly excited to have all of you in this cohort with us for this fellowship program 2024. Without further ado, let's start with the agenda of this fellowship program. I'm going to start with the introduction of my own. I will be introducing both the host organizations. Then I will be requesting Waqas Javed to give us a climate change in a broader perspective. Nurul will be telling us the specifics of the fellowship program. Then we will be requesting Sajjeed Aslam, who is our keynote speaker, to have the stage. After that, we will be asking our fellows for the question and answer session for the overall fellowship program. We will have an amazing, interesting activity engaging all our fellows at the end of this session, and then with that activity, we will be concluding and discussing the way forward for all the sessions moving forward. Starting with my own introduction, my name is Shafaq Rana. I am the managing director of the Brown Network. So I have worked on various national and international organizations, including Islamic Relief International, Voluntary Service Overseas, the Pasi Foundation, DBG, which is an NGO in Somalia, and Public Health Aid Awareness and Education 5, that is an NGO in Nigeria. I have worked on various initiatives. To name the few, I have worked on the TB Reach program that was funded by the Stop TB Partnership and UNOPS, and that was scaled up by the Gates Foundation and the USAID. I have also worked on the Benzer Income Support Program and the corporate communities and authorities united for resilience in Pakistan, where we have coordinated with the public and the private model to implement this project with the Islamic Relief International and the Voluntary Service Overseas. Just a note here that we are implementing the same model of public-private mix in the Brown Network as well, where we are not working alone. We are working as a catalyst to include all the partners to catalyze our impact as well. Okay, now I'm going to tell you about the two organizations, the Brown Network and Mindworks International, who join hands to make this fellowship program happen. First organization is the Brown Network. They are working tirelessly to drive the innovation and transformation. Their operations are from Pakistan and South Africa. They are committed to the sustainable development and social equity. They are focused on empowering marginalized communities by addressing the systemic inequalities through initiatives on education, economic empowerment, and environmental sustainability. We have our key initiatives, including Economic Empowerment Initiative, this fellowship program, initiatives on mental health and gender-based violence. We are targeting the marginalized communities, remote areas, and also we are forging the partnerships with not only public and private institutions, academic institutions, development sectors to scale up our activities and our impact of the activities at the national level and at the global context as well. Second organization is the Mindworks International, who join hands with the Brown Network. Their operations are in Pakistan and UK. They're an enterprise enabler focused on building the capacity of the individuals and organizations that want to engage in measurable, sustainable, and scalable social and economic transformation. Their key initiatives include the Young Entrepreneurs Movement, that created a community for the future entrepreneurs, Gen Warm platform that has advocated for women entrepreneurs, and Bootcamp for the Kids that has designed to nurture the young dreamers, innovators, and doers. They are also focused on providing comprehensive capacity building support and services to help the businesses grow and succeed. They also facilitate access to funding and resources, enabling the businesses to secure the financial support necessary for growth and innovation. Now I'm going to request Waqas Javed to tell us about the climate action in a bigger perspective. A little bit introduction of the Waqas Javed. He is operating our operations of the TBN from South Africa. He is also leading the global IT infrastructure transformation program in the sub-Saharan Africa. He has worked with the industry giants including Ericsson, Seshad, and El Habtoor groups around the globe, leading their transformative IT infrastructure and cybersecurity initiatives. He is also one of the pioneer who is working to bring the sustainability in the IT industry. He advocates the global impact of carbon emission, especially through the electronic waste and the energy used. Today, Waqas will be sharing insights into this critical perspective while discussing the climate change in the broader context. Over to you, Waqas.
Assalamu alaikum. Thanks a lot, Shabat. That's a ton of information in the span of like 5 to 10 minutes. But yeah, bear with us, guys. Thanks a lot, everyone. Okay. First of all, I'm very thrilled and to see so many curious and passionate like minds gathered together here. So, are you guys ready to dive into one of the most critical challenges of our time, right? That's the climate change. So this fellowship program, we are going to explore why the climate change, and we will uncover the science and the stories, and most importantly, the solutions behind it. Right. My excitement level is right now here to see young generation on a single platform where they're willing to work and sort out the critical issues. That's a very good thing. Right? Your enthusiasm and commitment are what make this fellowship so special. You are the generation that's stepping up, right? Speaking out of it and driving the real change. And now you have the platform to amplify your impact even further. So that's a good thing about it. So let's embark this journey together and understand how our actions are shaping this world and how can we work together for a brighter, sustainable future. Ready to start, guys? Okay, let's deep dive into it. I'll tell you the background of it, like why the climate change is, why it is happening. So basically, our planet has been draped into ice sheets. Our planet is filled with boiling hot oceans and dimmed by the volcanic ashes. But the problem is this: the climate change is nothing new around here, right? When it happens gradually over billions of years ago. But something new has happened in last few centuries. We have started to burn fossils fuels like crazy. Sorry to say, but yeah, that's a fact. Our natural gases that we make energy, we are releasing billions and billions of carbon dioxide every year, which has caused the Earth's climate to change in a span of just few human lifetimes. That's geologically the blink of an eye. But how the climate change is affecting in your area, you can see. So everyone that has joined the fellowship program, we asked about it, just the name and where they're from, and tell us the temperature around it. I could able to see like 45 degrees, 50 degrees. It's crazy how, like how many have you have noticed the changes in your weather in your own lifetime. When I was a kid, the summer usually doesn't happen like starting from 45 degrees, 50 degrees. We used to had spring, we used to had autumn, but now it's mostly summer where I belong from. I belong from Pakistan, but yeah, the weather has changed drastically. So here's the thing: life and climate are tied together, like the tangled pair of the headphones at the bottom of your backpack. We just simply cannot talk about life without talking about the climate, which doesn't mean so you need to understand the basic of it, right? The climate and the weather, there is a difference about it. Let's get to the basic of it. The climate doesn't mean the last week rains or the thunderstorms or 1 day temperature. That's weather. Climate is a long-term weather conditions average over many years ago. So to understand the difference, just remember the weather will help you decide if you grab an umbrella or you need to grab a jacket before you head out. But the climate will help you decide if you should invest in a good aircon. While the weather might impact the clothing for the day, but the climate directly impacts where and when the different kind of life can survive. This slide will show you the basics of it, like how the numbers seems kind of boring, right? But yeah, that's a fact of it. So Earth rapidly transformed due to the climate change, bringing severe consequences. The weather caused it's in billion of dollars the global damages. Rising sea threatens the coastal cities. You can see there are 3.6 millimeter annual rises, and the climate event deaths could rise about 250,000 annually. So yeah, that's the basic facts that we need to get our mind straight up. Shafa, can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Thanks a lot. So we owe today's climate to the fact that our planet isn't just a floating in space unprotected. We need to understand how the planet is working, right? Our planet, the big blue and green ball of mass, is wrapped around the atmosphere. So around the atmosphere, it's a big invisible fizzy jacket, the gassy jacket. You can say that. Without it, we wouldn't even exist. So this jacket is made of different kind of gases, and a small fraction of them is known as the greenhouse gases, which absorbs the solar energy like super well. We are talking about the gases like methane and water vapors, and most importantly, the carbon dioxide that we normally known as CO2. So what happens is that when the sunlight beams down to the earth, most of it travels through those gases with no problem, and it goes to the earth, is strike, and it goes back. When sunlight beams down to the earth, most of it is traveling through the gases without any problem, no issues at all. The energy from the sunlight that gets absorbed as it strikes the earth, it warms the surface of the earth, and this type of warming is normal and seasonal. That is not an issue. The earth naturally bounces this light solar energy back towards the space, but some of it exists in the atmosphere, but most of the energy it gets trapped in the earth fizzy jacket, specifically by the super absorbent greenhouse gases like methane and most importantly the carbon dioxide. So if you have carbon dioxide, if you emit carbon dioxide like in like billions and billions of cubic meters, right? So the earth atmosphere will be covering most of the carbon dioxide. So when the sun rays are striking and it's going back, the carbon dioxide, it is absorbing the entire heat. It is not letting the light pass through the atmosphere again. So this heat is bouncing back and forth, which is causing a loop in our system, and the temperature is rising drastically in a very dramatic fashion. The carbon dioxide released by the burning fuels could cause the planet to get hotter and hotter. But if we keep on burning these gases at the current rate, the climate will change on a level that you cannot even imagine. Our emission of carbon dioxide have grown and grown and grown at a level like the scientists were discovering when, see, if each and everything, all the fossils that we are burning it will cause the entire atmosphere to get hotter and hotter day by day. This is where all the companies, so now what the companies are trying to do is that this is where all the companies and organizations are joining hands to drive the sustainable initiatives for a greener future, achieving tangible results through innovative strategies and collaborative efforts. So this is one a part of my role as well. So I help IT organizations mostly in the IT field. I'm being an engineer by profession, right? So I help IT organizations to have sustainable initiatives for the carbon footprint and for the releasing of carbon dioxides, making sure all the data centers are covered with the less emissions. So can you go to the next slide, please? So what the companies are doing, companies across various industries now are implementing innovative strategies to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions, and we are combating against the climate change. How they are doing it? They are transitioning into a renewable energy. Many companies are shifting from fossil fuels to the renewable energy sources. Like we are working on the solar winds. We are working on the hydroelectric power. Naming a few tech giants like Google, Apple, Amazon, Facebook, these giants are leading the way by powering up their data centers and offices with 100% renewable energies. So the big giants are already working on it, and small companies are following their footsteps. We being in all IT organizations and all the companies, we are investing in renewable projects. Business are upgrading their infrastructure to be more energy efficient. Companies are investing in carbon offset programs, eco-friendly materials, and companies are constructing energy efficient buildings and using sustainable materials. So by adapting these strategies, companies are not only reducing their carbon dioxide emissions, but also driving innovation and setting new standards for sustainability in their industries. Their efforts, or their efforts are just like demonstrating a commitment to addressing the climate change and creating a more sustainable future. So yes, global collaboration, just a few points. Global collaboration is essential for tackling the climate changes. And yes, business are leading to sustainability. So this is how the companies are working on it. Mostly, being an IT person, I help IT organizations to work for a sustainable future, as I told you earlier. So this is one of my responsibilities. So what we build data centers, we build organizations, we build IT infrastructure, we install renewable energy, we make sure that the new coming forth organizations, coming forth projects are changing in such a way that we are emitting less carbon dioxide. So the less carbon dioxide is coming into the atmosphere, so the climate can decrease. So the climate change can affect. Together in this fellowship, we are forging a sustainable future. I hope, Shafak, I have not taken much of your time. Sorry if I have, but apologies for that. So we can talk and talk and talk on this topic for like hours, but we have limited time, so I'll not zip up. Thanks.
Yeah, well said, Vakas. You have mentioned that we have remarkable initiatives that we are going to incorporate and embed in the IT sector to make the climate change less impactful by this particular industry. Very well said. Okay, now I'm going to request Nurul and Zafar, who is the CEO and founder of Mindworks International, who has joined us from the United Kingdom, and who will be telling us about the fellowship program, specifics of the fellowship program, what and how this fellowship program is going to happen, and how will be the fellows participate in it. A bit of the introduction about Nurul, and she is a very innovative, expert, enterprise development expert with over 2 decades of experience igniting the social innovation and entrepreneurship in both local and international arenas. She has empowered thousands, fostering the entrepreneurial skills among youth, women, and marginalized communities across the Pakistan through impactful community engagements and policy advocacy. Her vision for the enterprise growth begins at the grassroots level, aiming to steer the nation towards an adoption of the SDGs while igniting their entrepreneurial skills. Without further ado, please, mic is yours, Nurulan.
Thank you so much, Shafak. I keep telling myself that I have to let go of the introductions. But thank you so much for that. And thank you so much, Vikas, for setting the scene so well. Can we stop sharing the slide deck for a second, Shafak?
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you so much. And I would want that as many people can open their cameras. Let's do this activity from what we have heard so far. And let's say that, we understand that there are two sides of the picture. One is the professional side, the corporate side, and how organizations are working towards, climate action and what does it mean for them. And the other side is where we're looking at how all of us who are here in this room and anywhere around the world are working on that. So I'm going to ask you something, and there are two ways you can go about it. Either you can use the reaction tab right at the bottom, or you can just open up your camera and give me a thumbs up, and I'll be able to see all of you. All right. So if thinking about climate change makes you go like, does it? Oh, wow. Oh my God. Please press the reaction button, which is a thumbs up. Go ahead. Let's see how many thumbs up. You can also do it like this, and I will be able to. Wonderful. Nosheen, Afira, Mariam. What about others? अगर आपको सारी बातें सुन के, all of what you are listening to about climate change, if you feel like, oh my God, the world is going to end and everything is going to get shattered and that the end is really near, and you were like, all right, that's a lot of us. Nafisa still has hope, okay? Nafisa, I see you, Nafisa. That's what I wanted to share. Now share the screen, Shafak. what we are talking about the whole world over, and all of the numbers that we are seeing, and everything that everybody is telling you about climate change and how is it affecting the world and what is happening with the earth and the carbon emissions and the atmospheric change that's taking place, everybody talks about a very gloomy, dismal picture. And what that does is, I believe that it helps us in this red no. So if all of you say the first no, try saying no. Yeah, no. And then try saying the green no, right? It's the same sound. The journey for climate action, how I see it, and I wanted to share that perspective with everybody, was that there is a red zone, which is the no, nothing can take place. There's no action that I can do as a single person all alone to figure out how we can create an impact and create the world a better place to live. And the other one is that we need to know. The sounds are the same, the actions, the criteria, the will, the structure that we want out of it is completely different. So when we were setting up the fellowship, uh, it's a journey of a couple of months of brainstorming and doing something, and just also self-doubting ourselves, because we were also in that no space, right? As humans, as people, and we have mostly the subcontinent here, South Asia here, we mostly, the first instant comes in our head is, what can I do as one person to create a systemic change in the world, right? And it actually hinders from the actual perspective, which is the no perspective. I want to know more so that I can take greater concerted action towards whatever we want to do. So the Climate Change Fellowship came as a process of a couple of months of, going through the no, and then deciding that no, like us, there are so many of us who want to actually learn more about the different aspects, the different corporate side of how we can create better corporate structures in which organizations are more cognizant of the fact that they need to have their environmental and sustainability processes, what Wakas was talking about, streamlined and cutting back on the carbon emissions. And then there is a personal perspective in which you, as individuals, as youth leaders, as leaders who are working for organizations, as people who are aspiring to have a career in ESG, people who are working for the governance side, who are setting up the policies and ensuring that we understand how the world can be made a better place. So, this is where the fellowship came from. And when Shafak was telling you about the number of participants, you see, it still takes, we've shortlisted around 130, 140 individuals. Even then, there are 53 people on the call right now. So it takes that concerted effort to go from a no approach to a no approach. So what we are trying to do as part of these 6, 7 weeks that you'll be spending 1 hour, 90 minutes every week with us is to make sure that you use the experience and internalize it and reflect how you can use it to the best of your capabilities. Either you want to set up a small business, either you want to set up your consultancy, either you are an organizational leader who wants to have more conversations, more deliberations on what can be done as part of the organization. If it's about you pursuing a career in sustainable development, then that is also something that we want, that the fellow should be an outcome for you. Um, I wanted to show another fact and figure, because I have very recently, and I'm no saint like all of us, but I'll be sharing this with you, that very recently I've started to, just look at ways in which I can cut down on my own carbon footprint as well. So, Shafak, if you can move on to the next slide, which is on my desktop as well all the time, as to how am I working or looking at ways in which I can be that one single person contributing to the overall environment of the world. So these are just some of the things if you just scan through. And I have planned a little activity towards the end of today's orientation session, is just look at ways in which we can cut back on the carbon footprint, all of us as an individual level. There will be some learnings also that we'll be sharing as part of our community WhatsApp group, so that all of us can support each other, and we'll figure out a way in which we can have conversations on there as well. Um, so this is just to tell you on a very self-reflective level, that what does it take? There are huge organizations that we can be working on. There are a lot of intervention that is happening in the world in terms of how big the pie size is for the work that can be done in the ESG space, which I'll let Sajjeed talk about it more, to give you more ideas about what does the economic sphere look like for anybody who's looking at working in the ESG space. But just also be cognizant of the fact that each one of us on an individual level brings in to the overall climate action advocacy campaign, and making sure that the earth is still a greener place to live in. So when we also speak about interventions, and when we were going through the applications process, we did see that a lot of you are working as aspiring micro entrepreneurs. Either you're already working on some green solutions, or you are running your organizations that are following a sustainability or a sustainable supply chain, or you're somebody who is also looking at um, doing some community action that's actually driving results. Now I can talk about multi-million dollar projects, and then I can talk about really really small things, and I like talking about small things. So Shafak, move on to the next slide, which is just going to run in the background. It's a video, but when we speak about, and you can play the video, Shafak, when we talk about systemic action, it does not have to be something huge, is what I wanted to say. I recently came across, this is a startup, by the way, that you see right here, that's running on just cleaning the really old problem of, how our water bodies are not cleaner, right? And there are various factors for it. It's tourism, it's just general unconsciousness of, debris that's been thrown into the water bodies. And this particular contraption, which runs as a small startup, and you can look them up. It's the Ocean Cleanup Project, which I really really liked, because it's so relatable for our communities as well, in terms of this contraption which runs on its own, and there's a filtering state process that's there, and you could see how in real time, at a time lapse, they are actually doing this cleanup process, right? This is my thing that I'm really passionate about, and I wanted to share that passion, because when you're working with enterprises, when you're working with small enterprises, you are really looking at seeing what is it and how is it that in the least amount of money can I create a huger or wider community impact. So this ocean cleanup process, just look it up, and we'll have this video sent across to you. It's this contraption, and it's a small startup. This essentially covers up what we want from the Climate Change Fellowship for all of the attendees. Take deliberations, take action points. There are 6 thematic areas that you would be hearing from the different experts. But look at ways in which you can internalize the experience to work for your benefit. Mindworks, the Brown Network do not want to gain something huge out of this experience. Our goal is to create a platform where each individual participant, every 50 people, every one of you who are here on this call right now, make sure that you take the maximum mileage out of the discussion, out of the experience that is a part of it, and you take this supposedly free virtual fellowship experience, and take it and use it to the best of your professional growth and abilities. All right. Um, Last note, which is really interesting, is that doing this as a virtual experience, we have cut back on a lot of our carbon footprint. It would have taken a lot of carbon emissions to fly every one of us into a hotel room, pay for the air conditioning, all of you traveling there, all of the paper printing that would have taken place as part of the fellowship. So I am all up for any fellowship experience and all the learning that we can contribute. So wholeheartedly, from Vakas, from Shafak, from myself, from my team who's here as well, we welcome you, and do please use this experience. Today is just the orientation, but we would want you to be more interactive. Let me know in the chat box if you agree with our vision of what we want to do. Are we all ready to take baby steps? Thumbs up. We have the emoticon. You can use the chat box. Baby steps. Wonderful. Abhishek, Tushita, Munam. Wonderful. I still know that everybody is up. They've had their breakfast and you're all listening to me. So thank you so much. With that note, I'll hand back over to Shafak and we'll move on with the presentation. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nurulan. And she has told us about what we want from the fellowship and what we get out of this fellowship program. One thing that I want to highlight again, that we do have contributed a lot in cutting the carbon emission by doing it online virtually. Next, I'm honored to request Sajjeed Aslam, who is a partner, technology and ESG investing lead by Spectreco, to tell us about the what actually is happening in the global context. Sajid, a brief introduction of the Sajjeed Aslam. He is a visionary executive with over 2 decades of global leadership experience, driving transformative impact in the climate action, ESG, investing in technology innovation across North America, Europe, and Asia. As a partner of Spectreco and founder of Matriarch Venture Exonomy, Sajid led initiatives at the intersection of sustainability and technology. He is shaping the future of ESG platforms, agri-tech, and e-commerce ventures worldwide. His career includes significant role at Nestle, Wateen Telecom, and ACCA, where his expertise in corporate finance, risk management, and public affairs have left an incredible mark on global business strategy and governance. I'm honored again to invite Sajjeed Aslam to share insight on what's happening at the global front. Please, Sajjeed, give me a second. I will be sharing your presentation now. Over to you,
Thank you,
Sajjeed.
Shafak. Thank you, Shafak. And I think I'll definitely congratulate all the participants who have joined. I also congratulate the participant who were shortlisted, who are not there today, but I'm sure they will be joining the fellowship program later at some stage. The biggest challenge, based on our understanding, and I'll share with you where we are based. So based on our understanding and interaction with the large corporate stock exchanges, technology company, consulting companies, we are talking about the big four, we are talking about the financial institution as big as IFC and the World Bank of the world, talking about the private financial institution as well. The one thing which is really challenged right now in sustainability space is the talent. People do not have the relevant talent available to them, and that's the biggest conversation in a boardroom as we speak. So let me use this a couple of slides to share our perspective here, a little bit introduction around Spectreco. That will give you the context when we are coming up with the numbers and the perspective, how we are building that. So Shafak, if you can move to the next one. So Spectreco is practically a technology company, which is also provide the advisory as there's not enough knowledge available. So that's where we have to really use the concept of human in the loop while we are helping the companies to build their strategy around the sustainability. So our overall vision is creating a world where the sustainability is the norm and not the anomaly. Right now, countries like Pakistan and a lot of developing countries, for them, the sustainability and ESG and the climate action is not the uh, front runner thought process or a primary strategy to drive the business or even the governance side of it. So we are working significantly in Europe, US. Shafak, if we can move to the next one. We are headquartered from US. We are working in Europe. We have got regional offices in Europe, Middle East, and Malaysia as we speak today, and we are still expanding in the other regions. Next slide, please. Our core area is the built infrastructure and the financial services, and we provide the services which start with the understanding the business case, why some organization, business, or government have to start working on a sustainability agenda. And when I talk about the sustainability agenda, that's a very, very wide range. It's not only the climate action, but it's also include the social and the governance side of it. And in many cases, the economic side of it, why it's viable. And the end result, how that government or a business will raise that required finances to support the initiative. And the numbers you will look in a subsequent slide, those numbers are very, very huge. So if we are looking at the financial services, in any transition, like we are working around the climate action, any transition from a current state to next state requires a couple of resources. The first resource when we talk about is the talent, not the money. So the understanding of the space, and that's where this fellowship programs comes into play. Once you get the team and the people who are talented enough, then definitely there's a other area that how they can leverage technology and data to move very fast. And then the third area comes into how we will fund that transition, how we will make sure the physical assets are moving from a current state to the next state. So these are the key areas which we will be talking about. We can move to the next one. What we provide, and some of the things you just talked about, Noor has also talked about, and the Vikas also mentioned there, the decarbonization is a major challenge. So how we can really look at that and measure, reduce, and report emission across different scope. And these are the terminologies you will be learning in the fellowship, scope 1, 2, and 3. That's the biggest conversation which is happening around the world, whether you are talking to the public sector entity or we are talking to the businesses. They are trying to really measure that what is their own carbon footprint, what is the carbon footprint they are generating using the energy from the different sources, and how the entire value chain, that's mean if the business is running and the government is running, how their vendors and the customers, they are generating the carbon footprint. So that is called the life cycle assessment of a product or of a business side of it. The second concept, which Noor also shared a video there, the circularity. Somebody's waste is somebody's treasure. So how we can reduce or reuse or repair and refurbish the waste which we are generating, and how we can reuse it and make sure that we are not generating further carbon footprint. Responsible sourcing, that's also one of a key area while you are buying something. And that's where the Noor also shared one of how you can individually or as a business or a public sector entity reduce your footprint. And there's a risk and opportunity side of it, how the climate change is going to impact the business and how the businesses and the governments are impacting the climate change. So that's works both sides. So that's called significantly when we are evaluating it, we use a concept which is called double materiality. That's mean the impact side of it, the financial risk as well, but on the both sides, the climate change on the business and the business impact on the climate change. Compliances, you will see a lot of changes which are happening around the world in the regulatory regimes, not much in Pakistan, but definitely a lot of regulatory regimes are being introduced in a very recent past, starting 2020, mid 2022, and now it's going to enhance and it's changing and evolving every day. And that's create a compliance issue, and we will see some of the examples. Monetization is another area. It's a very interesting thing. In the Paris Agreement in 2015, and the climate change has got its own different global arrangements, the one of the significant milestone which the world has achieved is the Paris Agreement, where they have agreed on a certain targets and where the term net zero was coined, and then the target of keeping the temperature change in less than 1.5 degrees centigrade. These are the arrangements which happen under the Paris Agreement. And then to incentivize the governments and the businesses, there is a mechanism that anybody who is doing a good job, that's been reducing the carbon footprint, they can claim carbon credits around it. That's mean if you are reducing a carbon footprint, that can be incentivized. You can create a financial instrument, which is carbon credit, and you can go out and sell that just like an equity or a bond in the market. And the people who are unable to reduce that, they can use that to offset their carbon emission. So somebody sitting in Germany and working on a certain industry, and they have got a certain quota for carbon emission. And if they are unable to really reduce that and they want to do further industrial activity, they have to fund that by offsetting the carbon emission which they are going to generate beyond the quota which is aligned. And that's create opportunities in the countries like Pakistan to create the projects which have a low carbon emission or which can reduce. We normally use the word which can help avoid, reduce, or remove the carbon emission. And any carbon emission which is avoided, reduced, or removed, that can be sold to that industry in Germany to continue their industrial activity. And you can well see the economic impact of that limitation, which many countries are facing, particularly in EU and now in US. Engagement and advocacy, we cannot stress less on that unless until there is a proper advocacy, people get aware of it, they really become advocate of it. We cannot really deliver on this single objective, which require a very collective effort. Not single country, single community, or single individual or business can make that happen unless until the entire world, all 9 billion people work together. And the capacity building, like I mentioned earlier, unless until we have a talent available, it's not going to work as well. So these are the key areas where we try to combine the human and artificial intelligence, technology, data, and the talent put together to help businesses and the government to deliver on their core business objective. And all those things, while you are doing it, if it's financially and economically, it's not viable, you are just doing it as a good work, and then it's not as sustainable in a long run. So there has to be a right kind of financial reward for the people who are doing that. And the Paris agreements provide that, and there are global frameworks who also account for that. If you are doing a good job, how you can access the low cost capital, how it helps improve the revenue growth, the price premium, brand recognition, and again, the talent retention, particularly if you are working with the Gen Z who require a right kind of purpose. Can we move next? And to do all that, we also use technology. It's not possible to really deliver on those things unless until there is a proper technology and data available. Vikas also stressed on that. I think whenever we are doing at a one business level or at a government level or even at an individual level, you will find a lot of apps which are available now, just like a health app, that what is your individual carbon footprint. It may not be accurate, but it gives you enough estimate to look at your own carbon footprint and try to find out the ways how you can reduce that. The measurement is a first step when you start creating those interventions and projects which help you reduce that carbon footprint, or even if you are talking about the social or a governance part. Can we move to next? So just look at the global carbon emission that's continued to rise. So if you look at the last 40 years from 1970 to 2020, we have actually doubled the carbon emission per annum. And that's coming significantly from the energy side. And surprisingly, in Pakistan, energy is not the top emitter, it's the agriculture. So that means when we are talking about agriculture, we are talking about significantly methane. And when we are talking about methane, the capacity or a global warming potential of methane is way higher. It's a short-lived, it's not a long-lived, but in a short cycle, it's basically generates the temperature higher than the carbon dioxide. So methane is also one of a key area which has been discussed in COP28 in detail. And there's a lot of nature-based solutions now being stressed So overall, definitely, if we are looking at the emission, 80% plus is coming from the carbon dioxide, but there are other 6 gases when we talk about the GHG, which actually contribute towards the global warming. And some of the gases have a higher potential of a global warming as compared to carbon dioxide, but just because they are smaller in terms of the percentage of overall emission, so they are not talked about. But just look at the concentration of methane in one area, the global warming in that particular region will be higher as compared to the other, because we are looking at the global averages. Sometimes averages are not good enough to reflect on it. So if we keep doing what we are doing today and we do not alter our path, last time in 40 years, the emission went from 24.5 gigaton to 50. But in the next 20 years, we are seeing that going to be double. And then in the next 10 years, if we don't do anything, it will be doubled again. So emission is one of a key source of a global warming. And you can see between 1850 to 1900, we have 13.9 average temperature in terms of centigrade. Between 1900 to 2000, it has risen only 0.5%. But from 2000 to 23, if you look at that, we have already gone up by 1.1% as we speak. And if we continue doing what we are doing, that will not change. And if we do not alter that path, and like Vikas also highlighted earlier, it will have a significant impact on our food supply chain, on the health side of it. Even, I'm not sure how many you have noticed, with the recent heat wave, your appliances have stopped performing well, and appliances are going bad. So sometimes we do not realize it, but the heat waves are actually generating a lot of challenge, even from electronics which we are using. And that's also one of a cost. And then you start replacing it. Once you start replacing it, that's created for the carbon footprint. So doing the right things and contributing, or at least start talking about it, and wherever you can contribute, that is important to understand how that heat waves, and I'm not talking about anything else right now, just the heat wave is altering the path, the way we live today. Can we move to next? The biggest contributor globally is energy. Not in Pakistan, a couple of other countries which have got the agriculture as a top one, but most of the countries globally have got energy as one of a key component, particularly which is using a non-renewable one. And the renewable has its own downsides as well. We will talk about it. So if we look at the world average, so it was 9% of a renewable energy which was being used or deployed in 2012, which is now 14%, a very good indicator. But that's exactly the amount of consumption which has raised over the last 10 years, if we are talking about 2000 to 2012. And the energy consumption is on the rise. The lifestyle which we are looking at right now, the way the energy is available or not available in many areas. So our energy consumption is going to rise either way. And if you look at the high income countries and the upper middle class, they are the major one who are contributing towards the consumption. And where the lower middle income countries, they are consuming less. But what does it mean? That whenever you are trying to develop a country, the industrialization and the lifestyle, the energy consumption is going to go up. And as soon as those lower middle country and upper middle countries start progressing towards the next level, the overall energy consumption is going to go up. And if we do not find the right kind of solution, and we keep using a fossil fuel or a non-renewable energy sources, the emission is going to definitely go up at the same time. Can we move next? Now, what happened with the climate change, which we are talking about? It's creating a host of living and the livelihood challenges. Why we say livelihood challenges? Definitely there is a living one, but how it's going to impact the income. So just look at the crop cycle. I just take one example. Our farmers are still using the old methodology and the old cycle of seasons to sow and harvest the crop. But with the heat which has changed, and I'll just give you one example, in Pakistan, it's 3 to 4 months you get the wheat. In UK, it takes 9 months. It's just the difference of weather conditions, how the heat is going to impact the overall crop cycle. And if the season is changing and if the weather is changing, how people are going to readjust themselves in terms of when to sow and when to harvest, and the overall yield and the nutrition values are going to change as well. And if that's going to change, that means we will end up with the yield challenges. We will end up with the nutrients challenges. We will end up with the other challenges, how the fertilizer industry is going to really take care of that crop cycle, how the transportation and the warehousing is going to get impacted with that, again, the crop cycle of it, how the financial services are going to support that. So entire this one thing, which we are talking about, the different crop cycle which are erupting and the people are not changing that, that's going to impact a lot of businesses which are part of the value chain. And some of the areas will not be suitable for the agriculture anymore. That means people have to go, we call it the involuntary migration from that area, which will create the challenge for the other cities if they are moving from a one to other, which create the health services challenge, the education one, the housing one, and that will create the livelihood challenge for the people who have to move from a one place to other, just because the particular city or geographical area is not livable anymore. And all the livelihood there is going to be impacted. Look at the flood cycles. We have seen the flood cycles in Pakistan as well. Pakistan is surrounded by 30% of the global glaciers. A little bit heat and the glaciers will start going to melt, and that will not, there's no way you can stop the flooding. And then the current trajectory is showing the average of 2.4 degrees centigrade increase. But if you look at the particular geographical region, they already have crossed the 4%. And even Antarctica, when we are talking about, so you will not see that the positive side, but the reduction in the negative temperature is already creating a challenge there, where the glaciers are melting and their marine life is getting impacted as well. So overall emissions, if we are looking at that, or overall the climate change, it's bringing floods, heat wave, cities are sinking. Jakarta is moving, Indonesia is moving their capital from Jakarta away 180 kilometers, just because the Jakarta is potentially in the next 15 to 20 years, it will be under sea. Same goes for the Bangkok. They have got the challenge. Water scarcity, droughts. So we are seeing the floods and droughts at the same time. And the transition requires somewhere around 9.2 trillion per year investment if we average it out till 2050. That's include the current spending of 2.7 trillion and going up to the different areas from a low carbon emission assets to no carbon emission assets, and transition of the energy is the biggest spend there. And if we are looking at the $9.2 trillion investment, where that money is going, who is going to spend that money, how you are going to benefit in that value chain, and how you are going to contribute towards that. It's a significant change in the industry if you look at, and that's a new industry and the services which are being evolved. And the regulators, investor, and the consumer all have recognized globally this pattern, and they are demanding a change. And that change is coming from the way the businesses are being conducted, the governments are coming up with the NDCs, the investors are coming with that kind of demand, which is again impacting the consumer and the communities in a very different way. They still need their returns, but they need their returns in a very sustainable way, which contribute towards the climate action rather than working against that. Can we move to next? And if you look at the regulatory regime, till 2021, there were somewhere like 21 regulation, but just between 21 to 23, there are 57 new regulations. And these regulations are demanding compliances, and the businesses have to change the way they live or they work. And going forward, there are more regulations which are coming up. And that requires the overall government level or a public sector or a national level strategy in terms of mitigation and adaptation. The industry scope 2 emission, which is again coming from the energy side, that is affecting the overall continuity in terms of the cap and trade regulation. What is cap and trade regulation? That there are certain quotas which every country has to maintain, and they cannot emit more than that. So there are a lot of countries who have already adopted the cap and trade regulation. EU is on top of it. US is following that. Australia has already introduced that. That means the industrial activity in that country cannot be conducted beyond a certain level of emission. means they have to reduce their economic activity. So what is the next level they can do? They can start importing products and services. Then there's a second regulation, which is called carbon border adjustment mechanism. That's mean you cannot import it. Somebody has to pay for that carbon emission before it comes to either the exporter or an importer has to pay for that, because there is a certain cost associated with it to reduce the carbon emission. And if we have to reduce the carbon emission and somebody has to pay, that will go to the consumer as a price. So that means we are entering into another cost of living crisis. If today China is providing you the cheaper products, but they are not paying for the carbon emission, neither the exporter, neither the importer, that's mean that will ultimately, if they will start paying for it, then the price will be passed on to the consumer, right? So that's a cost of living crisis which can come, and it's also already started impacting the global supply chain, and that regulation is going to be enforced by 2026. That is creating a lot of opportunity for people to work with the businesses, small and big, to start having the clear measurement around it, right? So that's by itself is a one-off opportunity. And failure to adhere these regulations, that will ultimately impact the businesses, whether they can continue or not in a certain region, and particularly any business which is a part of a global supply chain, they will have a significant limitation to export. Can we move to next? And what is the call to action there? So if we are aware of that, what's happening around the world, how it's impacting the businesses, there are few call to action, not only for governments, but even at an individual level. So the capacity building comes as a first one. How, as an individual, you take a charge for yourself to build that kind of capacity, to really become aware of what's happening and how it's going to impact your living and the livelihood going forward. What kind of technology and data you can deploy as an individual, as a business, or as a government to really measure and track everything. How you will make sure you advocate and create a community which have got a right kind of voice, who can provide support to the other communities as well. Climate finance, whatever you are trying to do, how you will make sure that you get the access to the climate finance. There are a lot of funding which is available under the GCF, GEF fund. We are talking about just few global funds, BlackRock as a commercial capital provider, stock exchanges, but people are unable to bring their projects which are investable, particularly on a sustainability side. How you will become aware of national strategy, because the national strategy help to aggregate in a particular geographical region what they need to focus and how, right? So the call to action as an individual, as a development agency, as a government, as a business, is we have to start looking on a capacity building side, the technology and data, the advocacy effort, the access to climate finance, and work towards the national strategy so we can really create that impact. So it's again, like I said earlier, it's a single objective, but that's require a collective effort. We are working with a lot of clients in Europe and US right now and the Middle East. For them, if you look at the level of urgency, it's very different. And when they try to access the talent which can help them, that's very rare. So there's always an opportunity, given that the technology and connectivity which is available, that countries like Pakistan can become one of a leader in terms of supply of that talent and expertise and the services which the Europe and US is looking at right now. So on that, I'll just end my conversation, and we are open for question answer. Over to you, Shiv.
Thank you so much, Sajjeed. Very well said. Like Nurul and Vakas and Sajjeed, all of them told us, know your challenges to know the call to action that is needed and the need of the time as well. We are open to question. For all the fellows, you have the mic. Please let us know if any one of you has any question from our organizers, from our chief guest. Please ask away.
Yeah, so
Before
I
we
did. did see a couple of questions pop in so in the chat, so I think let's use the chat also to like pop in any questions. But quite interesting insights, because a lot of you are looking at this from a personal perspective, in terms of how I as a youth can take part in the fellowship. What is in it for me? For organizational leaders who are here, what is in it for you? So do want to give everybody um, this opportunity to ask in questions. But even if any questions do not come up right now in your mind, we have the community platforms for you to ask questions. And as we go forward, we will also look at ways in which we could have yeah, Jangir, I've seen your question. So I'm going to put, there are two questions, Sajid, both from the MSME, the startup side. So any startups that are working on green innovation that you're fond of and you can mention. Jangir is asking that. We're also looking at many investment opportunities. People are looking for that, so we could both comment on that as well. But any startup that's a favorite, Sajid, that you're eyeing?
I think anybody who is working on a carbon capture, storage, and utilization area, CCUS, I think that's something which where the big money is coming in. And this is the area, even in a very specific to the industry, that's a one solution which every industry will prefer to use rather than transitioning the entire technology and the manufacturing infrastructure. They will prefer to go for the carbon capture technology. The biggest money sitting in for the carbon capture technology is right now with PIF in Saudi, and they have a mandate to really spend 25% of that outside Saudi. So in a very recent past, wherever they are putting together the energy projects, and in a very recent one, they have put on that natural gas-based energy project of 7 billion real. They have put a carbon capture technology 5 billion real in addition to that. So the project became 12 billion. But that's basically the right things to do, because in their national strategy, the carbon capture is one of a key area where they should keep investing. And they're open to invest that kind of money for carbon capture technology available anywhere in the world for any industry. So they're quite open for the carbon capture technology. That's a one side. The second side is the waste. Anything you are doing to really bring that circularity of the waste into use. So I'll just give you one example. Since 1950s, we have produced 9 billion ton of plastic. And out of that, 7 billion ton is sitting in the waste right now. Only 2 billion ton is basically reused. So anything which can help us to really reduce or reuse that 9 or remove that 9 billion ton or 7 billion ton plastic, which is sitting there, that would be a great investment opportunity for the world. And it's not only from a development agency perspective, they are the commercial investor who would like to reutilize that kind of plastic to create a recycle industries to reuse it. Another area, and that's very specific to Europe, is the recycling of textile. Right now, whatever they are building, it's only 1% which is recycled as a textile. They want to take it to 17, 18% in a near future, and they have got a specific regulation on a sustainable textile. So any solution somebody can provide for the recycling of the textile as a textile, like you mentioned, buy the secondhand clothes. So there are stores who are coming up who are recycling those clothes which are not required by one stakeholder, may be required by another one. So rather than wasting it, they are reusing it. So any technology solution which can really identify where this is available and who can use it. So all those kind of solutions will attract a good investment.
Thank you so much, Sajid. And that's a really interesting insight. And I know Jangir from one of our fellowship programs, another fellowship programs that we do, which is for young entrepreneurs, because I see a lot of people who are saying, I'm planning to. So let me share this particular learning just from this week only. So UK's is actually they're actually going through this climate action week. right? So a week of learning in which, I interacted with a lot of startups and as part of the conference. And just to give everybody a perspective, like Sajid was mentioning, and I'm just thinking as the call to action in all of the 6, 7 areas and dimensions we saw. There were startups that are, yes, working on carbon calculators, fantastic thing if you are technology driven. But then there were actual startups and organizations that are also working on the communication side. So they're thinking about organizations set these huge sustainability targets, Sajid, and they think about ways in which they say, all right, this is what we are going to achieve by 2030, and by 2060 we should be here. There's nobody who's actually enabling them to look at how are they also communicating. So there are organizations who are actually working on in the climate action domain, guiding people as to how to communicate on their business processes and how to do it effectively. So the best thing that I'd like to share here and quote is that Salesforce comes up with a project called Earth Force. And it actually is branded towards getting Salesforce offices and clients and aspirants who want to work for it just understand the concept of what Earth Force is and how are they engaging greater community action, and just going around on that. So the thing is, what I'm trying to say is that it's not always the first step does not always have to be a big, huge leap. If you're thinking about recycling or starting doing something in recycling, just look at ways and just start small and just go on from there. So we do have a lot of chat messages that are coming in. So if anybody wants to pick up that, there is a lot of requests, Vakas, for people who want to like pitch for their ideas. So I don't know if another fellowship would come out of this fellowship, but let us get done with the 6 weeks and we'll definitely look at ways in which we can do some pitching. I am very cognizant of time, and I did promise that there's going to be a small poll that I want to leave all of you with. Okay. So I'm just going to kick this off, and that's on a very individual basis in terms of what we can do as part of a smaller initiative, an individual initiative. And I didn't even share it with Sajid, but somehow it is connected with this presentation. That's what happens when, we're working together. So there is a poll that you guys must be seeing. Is it appearing, Shafat?
Yes, it is.
All righty.
Yeah, it is.
So,
It is,
so,
it is.
so please start commenting. These are just some personal reflection that I need to leave everybody with. So just go on. There are 8 questions, and you guys can start off with.
The first question refers to we are currently working on multiple initiatives in an IT organizations, right? What we are trying to do is that we are recommending each and every company for occupancy census, right? So if I have 500 people in one building, I would be installing 500 occupancy sensors in each of the disk, right? And that is connected to the APIs and AI technology in such a way, for example, after 5 o'clock, if the occupancy sensors detects there is no person sitting on the disk, and it creates a graph or a heat map survey of that building, of the surrounding, it will automatically switch off all the lights, switch off all the air cons. So a person is not like dependent on the person itself. So it is being automated in such a way that all the major companies are working in such initiatives. So your first question, I really like that. So
So if I
go.
can request all the participants to start answering the poll questions so that we start getting some results. I will do the credit. This is not by any way put up by myself or by Vakas or Shafak. I'm just quickly putting in the link as well for the reference where we have taken the poll from. And just do take a look at it and do some self-reflection. Only 3 of you have answered, so go ahead. There are more questions that need to be answered. It's an 8 questions poll only. Be honest. so that we can also figure out that, where we are at and how climate conscious we are and what we can do to make things better for us. If you want the full reference of the quiz, it's right here in the chat box. It's been taken from here. All right. How many of us do really turn off the TV or, at the back, or maybe I like your charger plugs. I have this argument with my husband all the time that I'm, just plugging all the switches off. Oh yeah,
In
see, women end up doing all of this.
in terms of watching television and binge watching Netflix, for example, the comic season like Friends or Two and a Half Men and such seasons, normally we play it at the background, and whatever we are doing, it
I
keeps on
do
running
that.
at the back, and it keeps on running at the back end. So now I've started
Absolutely.
this habit to disconnect each and everything. But yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I see a lot of us are on number 4. This is one habit that I have to let go of, you guys, the fresh notepad habit. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sajid. Sajid has to leave now. We'll just quickly do a group photograph, Sajid, so if you can stay back for like 2 seconds more. Wonderful. I think a lot of you have answered. I'll keep the poll running at the background. But while we're doing that, thank you so much, everybody, for the orientation session. Your participation has been phenomenal. We're so excited, as you can tell from all of our faces, that when we were visualizing this and the vision is turning into a reality, it's super excited. We'll have your first learning session tomorrow, and Shafak would be in touch with you. If any one of you has not joined the WhatsApp community, that'll be our communication platform. So please do follow it. You're just getting messages from the organizers. So it's not an open community as yet, so that we don't get any advertising messages and it annoys everyone. So please do turn on the cameras. We like a group photograph as well. Thank you so much, Sajid, for, it's always a pleasure listening to Spectreco. It always gives me 10 things that I have to do on my to-do list, and I'll end up doing, one of those sometime soon. So those of you who are comfortable turning on, I see Waleed straightening his hair, so that's great as well. Thanks, Waleed. Sarup, very good. Oh, I see the Zoom user. I can know now who the Zoom user is. All right. So those of you who are
I
comfortable.
changed my name.
Yeah, thank you. It's still not appearing though, but we'll figure
Okay.
out who you are.
Changed my name. Yeah, my name is Mehreen.
Marine. All right, wonderful. Thank you, Marine. So good that you could join. All right, let's take a picture then on the count of 3, 2, 1. Shafak is taking it, I guess. Shafak, are you? Okay, wonderful. So smile, everybody, and just hold on to that thought. Love it. And the next one, Shafak, another screenshot.
Just bear with me. Just bear with me.
Super.
I've taken it. It's fine.
So while
It's
we're
fine.
taking the picture also, there is a certificate at the attendance. Yes, there is. It's not yet certified, but we're in the process. So we might have a good news for you at the end of it, that we've gotten it certified as well. But everything in life isn't free, and we would want that our efforts that we're putting into organizing this has to be there. So your contribution is the investment that you are doing in the learning process. Certificates would be issued to participants with 80% attendance. So just make sure that you're learning, and the learning process, the curve carries on, and it would be a digital certificate that will be sent to you across in your work. No carbon footprints, minimum carbon footprint from the fellowship that we can address. Shafak, are we all done?
Thanks a
Yes,
lot.
we are all
One
done.
more
Thank you.
One more thing,
Dizzy. Yes,
I
please.
just want to highlight
Thank
and
you.
what's Sajid's presentation was that it clearly articulated the complex issues, right, surrounding the climate change and particularly the impact of the carbon emissions on the environment and the future generations. It definitely helped to gain a broader perspective and a deeper insight into the challenges which we face. So thanks a lot, Sajid, for joining today and giving a nice presentation. Okay,
Thank you
so we
so
are
much,
going
everybody. Thank you so much, everybody. Keep sharing your
to
feedback, your ideas, your thoughts. You have all of our emails. We'll leave our contact details here as well. My LinkedIn, Vakas's LinkedIn, Shafak's LinkedIn, our organization's LinkedIn is open. So those of you who want to reach out to us, reach out to us. We might be slow in replying, but we will definitely reply. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow. Shafak, what time?
12 p.m. PKT.
12 p.m.
Pakistan Standard Time. Yes.
Same time with
Same
the
time.
first speaker session tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a
Yes.
great rest of the day,
Thanks a
the
lot, guys.
week. Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye.
Take care, everyone. Thank you so much, everybody, for your feedback. Do keep sharing your feedback with us.